Hey, this is Steve Jolly with the Home Buying Skills channel. On today's show, we're going to talk about, should I sell my home by owner? And is it really worth the hassle? Are you ready to get started? Let's get to business. If you're going to sell your home by yourself, by owner, here's a few of the things you need to think about that your agent should help you with. If you think you can do these things, then maybe give it a shot. But if not, if you have any questions, bring in professionals to help you the way. That's what I would always recommend. That's what I would do personally. I would hire an agent to sell my own home. And that's what I recommend you do too. So the first thing you want to think about is preparing your home for sale. And one of the things you have to do to prepare your home for sale is what we call neutralizing the property. And it's important to neutralize the property because the buyer has to walk in and imagine themselves living in your home. And if they walk into your home and all they see is pictures of you and your family and little knickknacks and momentums that remind them of you and your family, they're not going to feel comfortable in your home because it's going to feel like your home and not one that they could live in. So neutralizing is something that's very important, but it's very hard to do as a homeowner because you live in that property every day. You see all these things all the time, and they don't hit you the same way they would hit somebody else that's walking into your house for the first time. So if you plan on doing this by yourself, I would recommend you get a friend or a family member, somebody that has a good idea about design and decor, and ask them to walk through the property with you. Another thing you can do is hire a home organizer, a home stager, a home designer, and have them walk through the property with you and do that for you. And as realtors, we do that all the time for our clients. We pay for home designers and home stagers and organizers to walk through our clients and help them get the process completed as good as possible and as professionally as possible because it makes a huge difference in the appearance, in the mind of your potential buyers, makes a huge difference in their mind. It was so important. Besides neutralizing, another thing we're going to do is organizing. And probably everything that you have out now, we're not going to keep out when it comes time to show your property or create the marketing photos. So we're going to box up stuff. We're going to try to minimize what you have out so that we open up the flow of the property, so that we create some amazing focal points so people can really see why your house is awesome to live in. Also, that makes your house feel more open, and it's a little bit less convenient for you, but it's only while you guys are showing the house and while we're doing the marketing for the property. And this is another thing, a home stager, a home designer, a home organizer, they can help you with this if you decide to do it on your own. And the last thing you want to consider before putting your home on the market, are there any repairs, are there any renovations that I need to do to get my home to sell? And that's going to depend on your unique home and the unique market that your home is in and what the buyers in that market are looking for. So if there are other properties that are out there that they could purchase without having to do repairs and renovations on your home, that's probably the way they're going to go because that's the easy way and that's the safe way. That's the way most buyers take. Easy and safe is better than unanswered questions and unknown things. So repairs and maintenance are important. It's hard to decide to know what you do unless you really understand the market, you really understand what buyers are looking for out there, and you really understand what the available competition is and what it looks like. Now, the second thing you need to think about if you're going to try to sell your property on your own is how am I going to price the property? And really to do that, the best way, you need access to MLS information. Going on Zillow or some of these other sites where the information isn't accurate all the time, it isn't always timely, it isn't always correct. So we need to make sure we have the most accurate, correct information and the most information out there because you need to analyze multiple properties to compare those to yours to come up with the best sales price for you, one that's going to get your home sold quickly and one that's going to get it sold for the most amount of money. Pricing is so important. It can break you or make you, especially in a market like this where it's changing. Pricing is never more important. You also need to learn how to compare homes like an appraiser would so that not only you price a property that's going to attract customers, but you price it so it's going to pass the appraisal. Both those things are super important in pricing the property. Also, the third thing is you need to be able to see your home for really what it is. And it's hard for some of us to do that when it's so close to our own home We have a lot of special feelings about it. We have a lot of great memories about it. And so we tend to romanticize those things, and we put a higher value on our own home, on our own property, than we would if it belonged to somebody else. So you need to keep that in mind when you're pricing their home, to try to be as objective as possible and really focus on the numbers in those comparable properties and see what they bring, and then make adjustments from those properties to your property so you know how to price it exactly the right price. And in order to make those adjustments, you need to be able to calculate for features and renovations that your home has or doesn't have when you're comparing to other properties. And you need to be able to put a number on each one of those features and repairs or renovations that is different than your home, so you can actually zero in on the correct value for your home that makes sense to the other agent, to the buyer, and to the bank. Now, the third thing you need to concern yourself with, if you're going to try to sell it on your own, is how am I going to market this home? And without a doubt, the one thing that you need is access to the MLS. It's going to give you exposure to the most people that are out there in the market actively looking for homes. It's going to give you exposure to all the realtors in your market that are selling homes and are taking buyers out and showing property. The MLS is also going to send your listing to all those major websites like Zillow and Realtor.com, and it's going to update it as those things change. So you need access to a realtor somehow, whether it's a full service listing or a limited service listing. I would not recommend listing a home without getting access to the MLS unless you're in a super hot market that properties are selling in a day. And I don't think we have one of those right now in the United States. Another thing you should do, or your agent should do for you, if you decide to work with an agent, is do some paid advertising of your home, especially online. You can get huge return. You can double, triple, even quadruple the number of showings you have by doing paid advertising. And I've proved it, and I've done it for a long time, more than 10 years. I've advertised on Google and on Facebook and all across the web, every one of my listings, to make sure they get the maximum exposure, the maximum amount of showings, which means they're going to get the maximum amount of interest, and they're going to get the best price for their home. And that's why advertising outside the MLS is just as important as advertising in the MLS. You also need to network to get people to know about your property that's for sale, whether that's online or in person. You need to share the news with people that may be interested in a home that you have for sale. And one mistake people that are trying to sell their home by themselves make is they don't make their property easy to show. They build it around their schedule. That's inconvenient for buyers, and they may not show your property. They might decide not to even drive by your property if you're not making it easy for them to see it. So that would be one thing I would recommend. That's a huge mistake that most for sale by owners make all of the time. Another thing you should consider if you're going to sell your property on your own, especially if you're going to put it in the MLS, is offering a buyer's agent commission. By putting it in the MLS and offering some commission, that'll really help get that home in the hands of as many buyers and as many agents that are actively looking for a property like yours, and it'll help you get more showings to the property. Now let's talk a little bit about negotiation. So if you're going to sell your home, you're going to have to be a negotiator. And this time you have thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on the line. You need to be able to negotiate with the best of them if you want to make the most money as possible on your home. And if you're selling your home on your own, realize the buyer has the same mindset as you. They expect to save money on the home because they're buying a for sale by owner home. They expect to save that 3% commission that you have had to pay the listing agent. They may even expect to save the 3% commission that you had had to pay to a buyer's agent if they come without an agent. So keep that in mind. The buyer has the same ideas as you. They're going to want to try to save the same money you're trying to save, and two people can't save that same money. So keep that in mind. That's the kind of buyer you're attracting when you're trying to sell a for sale by owner home. Another thing to consider through this negotiation process is the contingencies. There's lots of contingencies in the sale of the home, and you're going to want to make sure you protect yourself as much as possible. Some of the common ones are a financing contingency, which means if the buyer doesn't get financing, they get their earnest money back and they get to walk away. There's also such thing as an appraisal contingency, which usually means if the home does not appraise, the buyer gets their earnest money back and they can walk away, or they could renegotiate. But that's another step in the negotiation process. There's also an inspection contingency where the buyer has the opportunity to inspect the home, and they can also decide at that time that they can back away, they can cancel the contract and get their earnest money back. And then the last thing would maybe a sale of home contingency. And that's where the buyer is trying to sell their home, and they're going to require that their home is sold or closed before they close on your home. So you need to keep all those things in mind, think through those processes all the way through the end, and make sure that it's going to work for you, or if it's not going to work for you, when is it not going to work for you? And you protect yourself by negotiating those contingencies properly. So if you're doing it by yourself, you have to walk through this process by yourself. If you're doing it with the agent, they can walk you through that and help protect yourself as good as they possibly can. And if you're going to try to sell this on your own, I suggest you learn all you can about negotiations. This is an area that is going to make you or break you. And the reason why you're probably trying to sell it on your own is you're probably trying to save money. But don't let trying to save money cost you money. Contracts and paperwork is the fifth thing we're going to talk about. And that's an area, unless you're an attorney, that you probably are going to struggle with. And so I would suggest, in this case, if you're going to work on your own, that you hire an attorney to craft a contract for you that works in your favor, and that they review that contract and the negotiations that you agreed to before you sign anything. Now, you're not going to find an attorney that's on call, so this may slow the process down, which could frustrate the buyer. And the last thing I want to say about contracts and paperwork is make sure you understand everything that you're signing and you read through it thoroughly before you sign anything. This is another area where people overlook things, they sign things without reading and thinking about it, and it causes them problems in the end. So don't do that. Read through very thoroughly. If you have questions, ask. Have your attorney or your realtor review the document through you so you make sure you understand it 100%. The last thing I want to talk about really quickly is how to save a deal gone sideways. And that usually happens with a contingency. The home doesn't appraise, or there's an inspection issue where the buyer feels like you should repair it. This really comes back to negotiations and preparation. So you should do a lot of the work on the front end so you don't have some of these problems on the back end. But if you do find yourself on the back end, this is where you really need to understand negotiations and the psychology of buyers to get through this part successfully. Now, not every negotiation over a contingency makes it through that. A lot of contracts fall out over negotiations over appraisals or inspection issues. Don't let that happen to you. Learn how to save one. Saving one is a lot better than trying to find a new buyer, starting all over again. Thank you for tuning in today's show on selling your home. If you like the show, click the like button to let me know you enjoyed it. And if you have specific questions, leave them below so I can answer them. And finally, subscribe and click the bell so you'll never miss another episode. Thank you so much. Take care and have a great day.